on less possession, have won 7, which is a very good score as well. But it's a most enjoyable game.
It is, and one thing about it the first half that you have to say from a Laois point of view, they came out here, they showed that they're well up for this game. Ross Munnelly's goal and point, like, look, we're super stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I think Dublin too are finding themselves in it. This is good for Dublin, funny enough, that Laois score a goal here. Ross Munnelly, the speed to follow up. I don't know what Ross McConnell was doing. Came out. And then,
he seemed transfixed by the ball. He totally lost it.
He completely lost the flight of the ball there, and then an easy job for Ross Munnelly. But it was good for Dublin because it meant that they now were facing a situation which they haven't faced. Normally they rush into a lead. Now they had to come from behind, 4 points down, and they really did respond. Yeah, well, Ross Munnelly is causing plenty of trouble there, even though David Henry has had a good half for Dublin. But you know, the Laois forwards are moving well, and it's taken the Dublin backs, even though I thought Barry Cahill was very good there in the first half. So it's been good forward play by Laois.
It has. After those scores, Colin O'Rourke said to me, Joe Bradley, now we'll see what Dublin are made of.
Yeah. Well, I mean, their capacity for work is endless. They'll never stop. And Kieran Whelan has improved immeasurably as a midfield player. I mean, he used to be a bit player. He would catch the odd kick out and he would score a tremendous goal. He would go on a solo run and kick a point. Now he's a proper midfielder in the Brian Mullins mode, you know, and he has transformed himself and transformed his team. You know, his contribution to the team's massive. I mean, the other great thing about them today is that they're scoring. You know, whenever the chances are being created, they're scoring.
Scored 2 goals.
Two goals, excellent goals. But you see, and they're great in contact. You know, even a man on the ground under pressure, he's great at getting the ball away. You know, and they're sort of unstoppable in a way. I mean, watch this, for example. He's totally bottled up. He's on the ground. He still has the strength to get that ball away. You know, it's a bit like in rugby union, you know, where a player goes to ground and he recycles possession again. They've worked terribly hard on that, and a lovely dinky finish too.
Well,
you know?
Cullen should have given the ball. Cullen should have given the ball to Vaughan first. Like, he had Cullen loose, and Brendan Quigley does well. He gets back. But fair play to Cullen. He's quick enough. Now, we saw a bit of histrionics by Vaughan after in his celebration, but he could have let that go. But again, very well finished.
This is a killer here because you've got that wee wall pass where there's a man coming through, you know. And in fairness to him, he did it beautifully. He was extremely calm. Just watch his face and his expression. He takes a good look at the keeper. He sees exactly where he is. He takes his time. That's what puts a goalkeeper off. You take that wee split second when the goalie wants to dive, but then he can't.
Yes.
And then the ball's in your court, and he was able to finish.
And that goal was set up, a kick out from Laois after the first goal. Whelan came, dominated in the air, took it and set up the attack. I think he's been immense today.
Brilliant.
I think it's been his best performance for a half that I've seen. But the danger for Dublin, of course, is they go really downhill.
Yet, you know, they were 4 points behind, and now they're three in front.
All right, so we're heading into another commercial break here on the programme. Don't go away because there's still lots more to come on the Sunday Game Live of the day. That was the Leinster minor final. That was between Carlow and Laois. That game won by Laois. They certainly got off to a great start in the game. This is one of the 3 goals they scored in the first half. This one got by Conor Meredith. Well, they were flying it at that stage. A Laois penalty then that was followed by a 3rd goal that came again from Conor Meredith, his 2nd goal of the match, and that first half. Now, Carlow upped their performance in the second half, made a good fight of it. This goal from Jordan Lowry narrowing the margin, but Laois finished well. This point from Donal Kingston giving Laois a narrow win, 3-8 to Carlow's 1-12, and that's their captain Sean Ramsbottom lifting the trophy. We saw then at half-time in this year's Leinster football final between Dublin and Laois. Just a reminder, Dublin leading the match 2-7 to 1-7. It's all in the melting pot column.
It is, but I think Dublin have taken a stranglehold on the game. You know, really the gun was put to their head early in the game. They didn't panic, they kept fighting back, and I think they have played probably better football than they've played in a long time for the last 20 minutes of that half. And I think also you've seen far better combination play. I think the criticism of the Dublin forward line obviously stung. We've seen Alan Brogan and Bernard Brogan combining much better. Keeney has been a good target man, except that he's had a few wild shots, but again he's a great target man inside.
Having said that, one of my favourite points of the first half came from a Laois man, Colin Parkinson. Now he's a little bit of the prodigal son, I suppose, of kind of Laois football. This one came from Ferdy Byron, shoved the man, just ousted the Dublin player, was the way, Joe.
We're started off in a lively vein, but as the game has gone on, you know, Dublin's superior power has been really, really noticeable. I mean, this was worked the length of the field. At that stage, Laois were looking pretty vibrant. They were playing with the sweeper. Brian McCormick was dropping back and sweeping along the half-back line. He was picking up everything, really. And, you know, you could see some prospects for Laois. But as the game has gone on, Dublin have caught up with them physically. I'll tell you something that viewers on the TV won't see, but we can see here. Dublin hit very hard, physically fair, but a couple of times these Laois men got really cream in those exchanges. Dublin are winning all those 50-50 balls, and I think that psychologically Dublin are really on top at this stage.
Yeah, a big change for Dublin too is that Brian Cullen is pushing much more forward than normal.
Yes.
Now I don't know whether he's named at centre back, but it appears as if he's nearly playing
centre forward for most of the first half.
Most of the first half. I think this is something they worked on after the Meath games, is to get Cullen, because he is a good player and he can score points as well. Like, he was a forward in his previous life, so he's been pushed up and he's added a bit to the attack. But Dublin have to carry the ball because of the fact Collie Moran is dropping back as an extra defender for Dublin, and it's leaving sort of 7 backs on both sides. So Dublin have to be very precise with their kicking, otherwise it'll be mopped up by the loose man.
They've been very good from their kick-outs as well. I mean, Cluxton is finding his man most of the time from those kick-outs.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Laois can't clamp down on that,
Yeah,
because surely everybody knows at this stage is Cluxton kicks the ball left or right out to the wing, Shane Ryan runs out to the wing and gets it. Now, in fairness, Fergal Byron give most of his kick-outs quickly and to Laois men as well.
Yes.
So, you know, both sides obviously in training have worked very hard in retaining possession from the kick-out, and has worked well for both sides. But as the half went on, Dublin were clamping down on the Laois backs and forcing a long kick, and Whelan has been very dominant.
There's Liam Kearns, the Laois manager, of course. These players, they have been out for a couple of minutes out here on the field and all ready to go. Dublin taking the full allocation of time. Been fascinated by a lot of those kind of tactical switches and changes that happened in the first half of the match. Like, Laois named Tom Kelly at full back. He was unlikely to play there.
Yeah.
But he's kind of played a kind of a sweeper role.
Well, he has, and you know, they're trying to do that, but the difficulty is that Dublin are giving very quick diagonal ball into their workaholic forwards, and now the Dublin full forward line starting to get on top. I mean, Joe Higgins is under severe pressure from Alan Brogan. He's fouling him, and the referee on 2 or 3 occasions has given the advantage. Thus, Joe Higgins has avoided a yellow card. But you know, you can see that Dublin have really turned the screw, and I expect now that Dublin are up and running that they'll go ahead and win this game very emphatically.
Okay, back to the commentary box again to rejoin Darren Maloney and Kevin McStay.
Thank you, Michael. Well, Dublin finally rejoining us here on the pitch. Laois made to wait for around about, I'd say, 2 minutes for Dublin to arrive again. And actually Liam Kearns went back out into the middle of the field and got the players back in a huddle again.
No changes there, from what I can see.
Well, Liam Kearns involved in a couple of Munster finals with Limerick, when I remember them a couple of years ago losing to Kerry, going very close to beating them, but Laois are trailing by 3 points here, and Dublin into it straight away with Kieran Whelan. Whelan jinking inside away from McMahon, and Whelan has it back again, and that is just the sort of score that the Dublin players and their supporters wanted to see from Kieran Whelan, driving through, persistence paying off.
He gets the break there, of course, with the pass, but you're dead right. When he flies through defences like that, here's a little bit of luck that you sometimes need, but there's the bit of ability that you definitely need. And he swings it over very well.
4-point cushion. Byron drilling that down. Paul Lawler at centre forward. Here's Colin Parkinson. They need a score now. Casey with them. Parkinson into Hill 16, and he slotted that one over. And Parkinson having a fine Leinster final. That is his 3rd point in total.
He certainly is having a very, very fine Leinster final. He's concentrating totally on playing football. He's not getting distracted. What he's doing is he's just absolutely skinning his marker every time. Very mobile. He's popping up in different positions, and his angles are very good today. Lovely score. 3rd point.
Stephen Cluxton going long this time. Oh, that's brilliantly taken. One cleanly by Brendan Quigley. Not allowed to make much ground, though.
That is a fantastic catch. Quigley does this all the time. He stumbles a wee bit when he catches it, but look at that. Oh, magnificent.
Tom Kelly. A Laois player, Michael Tierney, has been knocked to the ground off the ball. Here comes Paul Lawler. Oh, dear. That is a shocking wide from Lawler. And actually went wide, probably nearer the corner of the pitch than the left-hand upright.
And the incident with Tierney in the middle of the field that you're referring to, I just think accidental, bumped into each other. Look at the kickouts one there, absolutely superb stats on both teams. They can be very happy with their efforts.
It's rare you see that each team, well, Dublin haven't won that. Kieran Whelan had it, so that's the first one going against the head, I suppose. Quigley can go left or right. With him now is Brian McCormack. Three men all over the place. McCormack puts it over the top for the point. A goal chance, though.
Well, he's going to take it. Quigley does brilliantly. Lovely transfer, but McCormack really has to be looking for one of the forwards, left or right. In fact, he does something a little funny with the ball. You'll see it here as well. When his jaw was just a little bit, but he's lying back, Dara. You got to be over the ball if you're going to stick those ones. He'll take it.
So McCormack's first point. Lawler left it behind him. Bernard Brogan. Higgins was picking up Keeney that time. Great movement from Alan Brogan. The swing of the hips, and Brogan being forced away from the Laois goal at the moment, but now back on track, and he sent it wide. That's their third wide, first of the second half. Super distance again, fisted away by Kieran Whelan. Here's Tom Kelly. Just wonder about Kelly's fitness. There's great fitness and great pace from Peter O'Leary. Collie Moran left in his wake. O'Leary still going. Moran coming back strongly. Peter O'Leary blocked down by David Henry, I think it was. It was Henry with the block.
Dead right. It was a brilliant block. It was a critical block. O'Leary should have connected with Quigley and one of the other support runners. But the number 2 for Dublin, David Henry, commits himself brilliantly to the block.
Brian Cullen aimed towards Conal Keeney. That's Higgins with him. Keeney on the trusty left boot. Has he nailed it? No, he hasn't.
Big mismatch there when Keeney starts out Joe Higgins. I think we're going to have a look at the block now, Dara.
Yep.
The points are still relevant. He really should have dished it off left or right. Look at that. Oh, that's terrific. That's terrific. That's how winners block. He wants the ball much more, much hungrier.
What a year he's having, David Henry, the Dublin right cornerback. That was so easy for Kieran Whelan from the Laois kick-out. That stat going against them now. Laois losing one from Fergal Byron. That's brilliant from Keeney. Here's a chance. Can it be 3? Yes! Bernard Brogan scored a goal in the first half. Allen's got one now. And just like last year, Laois have conceded 3 goals against Dublin. It's a 5-point game now. This feels like a big moment in this Leinster final.
There's the mismatch I was talking about. Keeney wins it beautifully in the air, links up, and a super finish. And it's lovely to see a player put it in the net, turn around with a big smile. That's the sort of celebration we want to see. It's a brilliant finish. The two Brogans have had textbook finishes in all fairness. Here's the pop. Here's the finish on the floor. Daisy Cutter. No chance for Fergal Byron.
The 8th goal he scored in Championship football. Here comes Bernard Brogan to Jason Sherlock. Sherlock got free, and he's got a free.
Yeah, he's been fouled.
The shot went wide anyway, but the referee had blown the whistle, and this time it is a free. Play halted. Mark Vaughan should slot this over.
And again, Dara, those bursts that we keep talking about, the big lift that the goals give Dublin, and the minute they get the goals, they seem to really go for the next couple of plays. Oh, there's the catch. Lovely, lovely pass. That's the option. That's the finish. Dubs cruising.
Mark Vaughan has scored 4 from 5 frees. He's now scored 5 from 6. It's early days of the second half to have a 6-point lead, isn't it?
Well, they are playing like winners, you have to say. They're livelier to the ball, and if Henry encapsulates what they're all about with that block earlier on. You see how it radiates all the way down through the team.
There's that man again, Kieran Whelan, winning clean ball off the Laois kicker, Alan Brogan. This is a testing time for the 2003 Leinster champions. Brogan dropped it short. Brian McCormack from Portlaoise. All the players very crowded around the possession. A big gap between the Laois half-back line and their half-forward line, and Dublin putting pressure on them on the way out. And there's Cullen again pushing up on the play, putting pressure on Tom Kelly. Oh, that was Conal Keeney's best effort, and Kelly hardly flinched. Now Vaughan into the space. Tierney trying to get to that, but it's picked up by Ross McConnell. Bernard Brogan dropping deep. Collie Mooring's free. Shane Ryan is up with him. They're finding gaps all over the place. Laois are being cut apart. Ryan wants it from Jason Sherlock. Sherlock wants the point, but again he's put it wide on that far side.
Yeah, he should have given the pass. He should have given the pass, no doubt. Ryan made a big run. Can be very frustrating. I think we're going to have a look at this absolute ginormous leap in the air. Look at it. Oh, fantastic.
An all-star in 1999, Kieran Whelan. Probably the most talked about player on this team for a whole lot of reasons. Bernard Brogan is winning an awful lot of ball for Dublin. They're way on top in terms of possession. Laois need to do something pretty quickly. I wonder, will Liam Kearns try and make a change or two to affect this game from the line? The ball just coming straight back at them when they come out. They're launching it forward, and Dublin winning it so easily. And the marking has gone all over the place. Sherlock has won another ball with no real pressure on it. Here's Collie Moran. The two inside forwards just standing, and Moran goes himself. A lot of steps. Overhit it. Here's Alan Brogan. Fergal Byron absolutely furious. That's gone over the bar for a point for Dublin. They're starting to pull away, and Laois need to do something very quickly.
Well, Brogan is first up. There's a lot of steps here, as you commented. Gets away with it. This is really good by Brogan. Pulls it out quickly, and he has the ability to go on to his left and swing it over. I'll tell you, if that's another foot, it's kind of a miss hit. If that's another foot lower, that's in the net.
Well, it's the likes of Pádraig Clancy who need to stand up and be counted now for Laois if they're to drag themselves back into this Leinster final. That was Brian McCormack, and it came off the back of his own man, who was Joe Higgins. Darren Rooney wins one in the air against Vaughan, who wrestles him to the floor. I think that's a free. Ross Munnelly gets it back from Joe Higgins. And Munnelly's still going. Moran's challenge a little on the high side. Brendan Quigley. Here's Paul Lawler. They badly need a score. Oh, that was superb from Lawler. Henry made to look silly. Here's a chance! Oh! Off the crossbar. The shot was from Pádraig McMahon. Laois badly needed that to go in. How close was this?
Oh, it's inches, Dara. That's all it is. Was it Brian McCormack? McMahon that has it. Oh, that is inches. We saw him up a bit earlier. I thought he might give it back to the inside player, but he turns, has his own shot, and here's
Collie Moran.
Screamer.
Who's supposed to be marking Paul Casey? This is so open, and Alan Brogan has put it wide. Now I wonder, Dublin in this position, in some of their previous games, they've a habit of going to sleep basically and just drifting out of the game. That's another wide there.
Of not being ruthless, I think is what you're trying to say, Dara, because it is a habit they have, and this is where they should drive on now.
Well, they've kicked 4 wides in the second half. Just have a look at this again from Pádraig McMahon. Oh, Stephen Cluxton never moved. Well, he did, but he thought he was going to be looking at the ball sitting in the back of the net. If Laois are to come back into this, they need to mark up and keep their discipline. And look at the space Vaughan has. They're not doing that. Vaughan looking for one from play, and he's got it. I've lost count.
Well, I'll give it
1-6.
1-6. 4, 5 frees. That's his first one from play, I believe. Well, count the goal, of course. And that is terrific. But the point you make about loose marking is well made. They're all over the shop in terms of picking up their direct markers, and they got to tighten up.
Peter O'Leary. Oh, that's a lovely ball in towards Parkinson. Colin Parkinson! Good stop by Cluxton. Out for the 45. That's a really fine save. Parkinson, I think, maybe forced a little bit too wide, but goal on their minds.
Well, they forced wide because that's good defending by Casey. And look at Cluxton. We've talked about how good a shot stopper he is. And Parkinson does most things right. If he keeps it a bit lower, he has a better chance, of course. It's at a nice height for Cluxton. But you have to do your business, you have to do your job, and both defender and goalkeeper did that.
The all-star goalkeeper, player down injured. It's the Dublin captain, Collie Moran, who's struggling. Left ankle is the problem. Michael Tierney is getting ready to take the 45. 8 points in arrears. It's a long time since Laois' last score. Tierney has kicked 3 frees, 3 place balls out of 4.
It's a beautiful tester now. There's a bit more pressure because the gap is bigger. The goalposts tend to get a bit narrower in this position.
And there's an awful lot of blue on that hill behind the post, kicking into it in the second half. And the referee having a word with Brendan Quigley and Ross McConnell.
So the Dublin players go very, very close to the free taker. It seems to be policy with them. They're right on the edge of 13 metres.
Tierney. Well, he had to wait a long, long time to actually kick that ball, and he was up to the pressure.
Listen, that's top marks. Absolutely top marks for such a young player. Terrific.
Substitution on the Laois team.
Now Laois are making a switch. Billy Sheehan. He's coming in for Beena MacDonald. Dublin were thinking about a switch. With Kevin Bonner maybe coming in. We'll leave that for the moment, but Beena MacDonald is gone off. Here is Billy Sheehan. Concerns about his fitness. Now pouring McMahon through again. McMahon! Well wide. He got through earlier on and hit the crossbar, but this was a good bit off target, but pressure put on him just as he went to take the shot.
Yeah, I know these look spectacular runs, and they are great runs, but the ball is in the wrong hands for me. So that ball has to be transferred to support players, fellas that are comfortable in around the goal. That one's just blasted wide.
Scoring chances. And there's one of those short kickouts for Barry Cahill from Stephen Cluxton. Paul Lawler didn't put up much of a challenge at all, did he? Cahill came off the outside of his right boot. Conal Keeney will retrieve it. Shows so well for the ball. Kelly didn't put up too much resistance at all. Now it's Bernard Brogan. The confidence really high. Brogan trying to do an own mulligan on it, but they got a challenge on him. Here's Jason Sherlock on the left boot. The right hasn't been working. The left isn't working too good either.
Jason thinks it went over, Dara.
Yeah.
Umpire was adamant though.
Well, I wonder, can we figure it out from here? Well, that's Bernard Brogan, and laid it off to Jason Sherlock. Very difficult to tell from that angle. Here's Joe Higgins. 7 points between them, and the atmosphere's gone a little flat. Is this the time for Laois to try and pounce? O'Leary with the shot. Well, that's another waste. Again, they're getting the ball in decent areas, Kevin, but just not able to slot it over the bar at the very least.
It's wastage.
Speaking of wastage,
the game has gone so loose.
Hasn't
now,
it?
Derry, yeah. No marking at all.
oh dear, that was so careless. It was Brian McCormack, and Dublin could be in again here. Bernard Brogan. It's just far too casual. It's like a bad challenge match at the minute. Just so many mistakes creeping into the play from both teams, that it's Dublin who are in the winning position. He should really be driving on. Billy Sheehan will try and drive Laois on. Joe Higgins. Torrig McMahon again, Billy Sheehan. They need a score. Brendan Quigley. Quigley trying to cut away through. Collymore and pulled him down. They're going to get a score now from Michael Tierney.
Yeah, they're working this one in a wee bit better. McMahon throws it into Parkinson. Sheehan was involved earlier. There's the foul by Collymore. There's the free in for Tierney, and here comes the point. But you fancy they need a goal to lift it. The game has gone a bit quiet. Points won't do it for Laois.
It doesn't bring much of a reaction from the Laois supporters here. 2 goals between them. Lots of discussions going on down on the line in front of us involving Liam Kearns, the Laois manager, and his selectors. Well, now, this was the Jason Sherlock shot that he was convinced went over. Very hard to know again, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very hard.
And Conal Keeney is bringing Tom Kelly for a tour of Croke Park, breaking to one side and then the other. Alan Brogan. Oh, that's a lovely ball. He's picked out Jason Sherlock. Rooney is there. Sherlock, will he get it this time? Oh, it's come off the woodwork and it's picked up by Brendan Quigley. That's a let off for Laois. Another opportunity for J.O. He couldn't convert it though. Dublin have converted 14 out of 27 scoring chances. 9 wides they've got in total in the match to Laois's 5. Torrig Clancy. They're leaving the door open to Laois. Colin Parkinson beaten by the bounce of the ball. Easy for Ross McConnell, but that is absolutely awful. Dublin have lost it. The concentration is gone, and here comes Brian McCormack driving through to Ross Munnelly on his trusty left boot. Oh, it's well taken by Brian Cullen, his DCU teammate, Munnelly's teammate. Alan Brogan to Shane Ryan. Mark Vaughan wants it up the field, and he's taken Brendan Quigley with him. Vaughan had it, then lost it. Here's Quigley.
Great tracking by Quigley. That's a real desire by Quigley. He chased him.
Well, they need more of that desire further up the pitch. Paul Lawler. Brian McCormack. That's wide. Well, Laois trying to get back into it, Kevin, but just to focus on Dublin for a minute, things not right with them at the moment. Now, should Paul Caffrey be trying to change things from the line?
Well, if we can get a camera on it, we'd see Paul Clark is absolutely racing around the Dublin forward line, trying to get guys back into their positions. He's had a word with a few of them there. Look, keep your shape. Stop playing just off the cuff. Let's have a few targets for the ball coming in. And as we look down already now, 4 of the lads have ran back into their positions, giving the Dublin team a bit of shape.
Kieran Whelan travelled a long way to try and get that, but the break goes to Peter O'Leary of Laois. Torrig Clancy. Joe Higgins wasn't quite sure what to do or how to get by the referee. Higgins lets it forward again. They make a mistake. 30 metres from the Dublin goal. Bernard Brogan. Will Dublin find this groove again? Bernard Brogan. Jason Sherlock never going to win that in the air against Darren Rooney. Into double figures at the wides, 10 now.
Yeah, bad in-net ball from Bernard Brogan. Didn't give Jason Sherlock much chance with it. But I can see where he's coming from, because he had very little support play. He just lashed it in the end. And the effort that Dublin put into the early bursts sometimes catches up with them.
By the way, the attendance today, 81,394. I'm not quite sure where the other 1,100 people have gone. But 82,500 tickets were sold. Here's Billy Sheehan. Not for long. Shane Ryan. Paul Griffin.
Off the ground.
Off the ground.
Complete slobbering now. That's why you call that by the Dublin defence. Flinging it around instead of clearing it. They've lost their direction, and this is something where I know I'm labouring the point, but this is what happens, Dublin, for key phases.
Well, I'm sure they wouldn't have expected to be this far ahead at this stage of the second half of a Leinster final, but they're in this position. They haven't scored themselves in some 10 minutes. And Michael Tierney with the free, it drops in. Cluxton comes at the fist and nobody in a Laois shirt there. Instead it's Paul Griffin for Dublin. Brian Cullen been tackled hard by Ross Munnelly. Barry Cahill, Bernard Brogan. No way out for Brogan. Well, he had help from Barry Cahill. Paul Casey going to ground off the ball. Seems to have hurt himself. That's a line ball to Laois. Paul Caffrey not too happy, having a word with the linesman.
Oh, he should just get back from the linesman. He's made his decision. You don't need that sort of pressure. The big problem there was Barry Cahill was just too casual on the sideline with the ball. He had to know that someone was going to come in close and put a bit of heat on him. And whether he went over the line or not, the linesman gave it. He really should have got rid of that ball so much earlier.
It's kind of been a feature of their play in the last 10 minutes. Just a lot of casualness around it. Mossy Quinn, you see there on the right of the picture, talking to Paul Caffrey. He's going to come in, left out of the starting 15 by the manager when the team is announced during the week.
I suppose management's planned for a lot of things, and I suppose it'll be a bit overconfident of them to plan for what we might do if we have a big lead. And sometimes they have to struggle to come to terms with the fact that they're 6-7 points up. Clock is ticking down now, and they're in a very good place, but they need to tidy it up a wee bit.
Quinn will be in next time the ball goes dead. Here's Pádraig Clancy. That's off. David Henry will catch those all day. Now Jason Sherlock been marked by 2. One of them, Brian McCormick, got a hand to that. Here's Billy Sheehan. Loves to run with the ball. Checked by Bernard Brogan. Sheehan still has it. Darren Rooney. Peter O'Leary free on the left-hand side, but Joe Higgins is going the other way. Higgins on the floor. Here's McMahon. Eventually they get it to Tierney. Brilliant block down by Paul Griffin. That's super play. And Griffin claims the ball and the foul. Free out to Dublin.
Look how quick he was up after the block. Brilliant fitness, brilliant anticipation. And as we said earlier on the Henry one, a great play to rise your teammates.
Stephen Cluxton kicks out Paul Casey. Bernard Brogan. Shane Ryan. Off he goes. Mark Vaughan. Pádraig McMahon seems to be struggling a little bit at the moment. Didn't even try and make a challenge there. Knew the ball was coming to Vaughan. Here's Alan Brogan. They move it quickly. Barry Cahill. Cahill caught by Cahill Ryan. Free in. Here's what happened.
Well, it's I suppose what you might call a good foul, because Barry Cahill has cut inside him, inside Cahill Ryan, and it's a dangerous opening. And he won't mind coughing up that card.
Now look at that time since Dublin's last score, very nearly 14 minutes.
And that's what we've been, that's the point essentially we've been making for the last 10 minutes or so. That when they're down and when they're away off their game, they're not pretty, and those intervals, that's what up on 13 minutes there, far too long without scoring.
Now what's going to happen to Cahill Ryan? We're inside the last 10 minutes and it's a yellow for Ryan. Keeney scored 2 points in the first half. Again they hit the woodwork. How many times has that happened in the second half of this match? Another scoring opportunity, but they get one now. Here's Keeney cutting through. Lost control of it in the challenge. And Laois once more let off the hook. Joe Higgins. Michael Tierney. 6 points between them. Laois have already hit the crossbar in this second half. Tierney teasing Paul Griffin, and Tierney drops it short. It's as bad as a wide, really, isn't it? You get into that situation and drop it right into the arms of the goalkeeper. Mossy Quinn will be in very shortly. Maybe Jason Sherlock to go off for Dublin. The bounce beats Mark Vaughan, but Rooney pushed it. Here's that change, and it is Jason Sherlock who's going off. Tomas Quinn, his replacement.
Well, remember that the goal that Bernard Brogan put away was a peach of a pass from Jason Sherlock. That's what he brings to the Dublin team, a little bit of creativity. Hasn't been good for him in terms of troubling the umpire today, but clever contributions. And as I say, that's the bit I'll remember. Super pass inside for the Brogan goal.
A Dublin player receiving treatment at the moment. It's Mark Vaughan. Alan Brogan again trying to bring a bit of intensity. Kieran Whelan, oh, that's a super point. That's one of the scores of the day. Heading again into the comfort zone. Kieran Whelan scored the first point in this second half, and that was beautifully taken.
That's a great score. Lovely little dish in from Keeney to Alan Brogan. And how many points have we seen Kieran Whelan score from that position down the years? As I said at the top, he's having a great year, playing really well.
3-12 to 111, 3-12 some score. Laois again seeking out another goal. Ross Munnelly just thrown to the ground by Brian Cullen. Throw being the operative word. That's a free in.
Well, Ross Munnelly jumps into the tackle, but he is thrown to the ground unceremoniously.
And a flash of the black card by the referee for Brian Cullen. Pretty straightforward opportunity for Tierney. He's kept the scoreboard ticking over for Laois in the second half, but nothing more than that. And that brings them back to a 2-goal margin again. Paul Lawler has gone off for Laois. Kevin Fitzpatrick is in wearing number 23.
And at this stage, I reckon the Laois fans are thinking of the pots that are going to be rolled out in about half an hour for the draw, because that's where they're heading. The stewards are in their end of match positions, and that's never a good sign when you're 6 points down on the scoreboard.
Here's Paul Casey. Brogan missed that. Cathal Ryan behind him, but Mark Vaughan didn't. Again, the marking is non-existent from Laois. Vaughan trying to pick a way through. He lets it off to Keeney. Pulled on it first time, wide.
Yeah, this isn't going anywhere fast. Vaughan bundled out, big drive by Keeney.
Well, Mark Vaughan will get some reception as he heads to the line. His work finished. Kevin Bonner is replacing it. 1-6 today.
It's a great performance. We spoke about him in the pen picks, the pressure he would have been under this week, and yet he turns up and he does the business. That's all you can ask for.
Here's Conal Keeney, he's done the business too. Bernard Brogan to Mossy Quinn. That looks lovely. Well, the key score in the second half, Brogan's goal in the 5th minute, but in the 12th minute of the second half, Dublin were 3-11 to 1-9 in front. And at that stage, there was no way back for Laois, or they didn't appear to be, even though Dublin switched off.
One of the big parts of the Dublin performance is that they get contributions from just about every player on the field and from their subs. Okay, they're not dazzling by times, but everybody is contributing.
3:13 is a very healthy score. Here we go again. Quinn has Bonner to his right. And it's gone back into Bonner. Rooney lost it completely. I think caught watching the ball. Keeney just took his eye off it. Tom Kelly moving back in closer to goal. Higgins. Colin Parkinson. Ger Brennan is going to come in for Dublin to replace Paul Casey. Here comes Parkinson. Oh, he was hit after he let go of the ball. Fitzpatrick in there. Great block down. They're just determined not to give up a second goal.
It was a great hit by Paul Casey. I think his timing was pretty much okay.
Quinn. Brendan Quigley. Ross Munnelly completely free to his left. Quigley only had eyes right. Here comes Billy Sheehan. Quigley again. Parkinson. Parkinson. A lot of curl on it. It's wide. Wide number 7. 4 of them kicked in the second half. And here's the Dublin switch. Ger Brennan of St. Vincent's off, or on should I say, and off is Paul Casey. They know it's another Leinster title. Bernard Brogan. Barry Cahill. Ger Brennan. Very left-footed player. He lets it off to Brogan. Now Brennan again. They've got him free. Brennan scores a point in the Leinster final about 30 seconds after coming in.
Well, the problem here for Laois was the thought that Alan Brogan was going to take the pass. A lovely little fake. And then he put it into Ger Brennan. He was going to fist it. He said, no, I'll put it over. Laois lads a little bit tired now. Don't fancy the chase at this stage.
Comfortably Dublin's biggest score of the 2007 championship to date. 3 goals, 14, 1-12 to Laois. It's a free into Laois. And there's an incident down the other end in front of the Canal end goal. Kevin Bonner involved. Real messy stuff, Darren Rooney. Fergal Byron, the goalkeeper, out with Alan Brogan. Now this will hold things up. Dublin have brought Diarmuid Connolly in.
Well, why don't they just jog away? Why don't they just jog away from that? They have the game won. They don't need to do that. I'm sure there's plenty of verbals going on from the Laois lads too, but Dublin have it won. Jog away.
They had it won long before now. Into stoppage time, and the referee having a word with the umpires. What action, if any, will he take?
Well, send them back to school, I'd say, because that's the behaviour of schoolboys.
100 lines.
Yeah.
And that's Kevin Bonner. Bernard Brogan, the player who went off, replaced by Diarmuid Connolly. So a yellow for Kevin Bonner. Well, they really are cleaning out the bench now. Kieran Whelan off, and he's been replaced by Johnny McGee. Where's number 20?
Well, it's a lap of honour at this stage. I didn't see who was coming off that time.
It's Kieran Whelan, yeah.
Yeah, what a game he's had. Listen to the roar he gets.
Well, you know, he gets a lot of criticism as well as a lot of praise.
That's a nice little touch by Pillar Caffrey as he jogs by him. He's done a great day's work, a really great day's work.
Big game from a big player. Tierney added another point, by the way, from the free for Laois, 113 to 314. And what's happening here? Again, another incident around the middle of the park, and this is just stupid stuff. Brian Cullen getting involved. There's all sorts of stuff going on. A lot of verbals between the players, little gestures. I think there was a gesture there about 3 in a row, which Dublin are going to win. Barry Cahill a big roar from the crowd. They've been asleep for a long time during the second half. Cleared away by Cathal Ryan, all the way over to Joe Higgins. Billy Sheehan. 14 points Laois lost to Dublin in the semi-final last year. So much of that had to do with Corey Clancy going off injured. Billy Sheehan trying to bring it back to 6, which he's done. Dublin just too powerful for them towards the end of the first half with those 2 goals in the space of a minute. And there is the whistle for full time. Dublin celebrate Leinster title number 47. And I'm sure they couldn't believe in the 12th minute of the second half that they had an 8-point lead and that it was going to be that easy at that stage. Alan Brogan's goal was a key moment in the second half. Kieran Whelan got the score.
Our system is producing drama, some surprises and the odd little bit of heartache as well. We'll bring you some more of that this evening, but our main events tonight are the top 2 provincial titles in Leinster and Ulster football. From headquarters is tightly packed on and off the field as the Dubs take on Laois in the Leinster Senior Football Championship final. Clonus once again hosts Tyrone against Monaghan, contesting what many say is the hardest title to win in any championship summer. We'll see more football from yesterday in round 2 of the qualifiers. Derry and Mayo, the most prominent of 4 keenly contested meetings. And we check out the final round of the hurling qualifiers with quarter-final places to be settled in Galway, Portlaoise, Tullamore and Tipperary. You're very welcome once again to the Sunday Game. To contact us this evening, just text the word GAME in your comments to 53555. That's 53555 on your mobile. And a big welcome to our football guests tonight. They are Anthony Toll and Tommy Lyons. Gentlemen, you're very welcome. And so to headquarters, Laois have won just 1 Leinster senior football title in the past 60 years. In the same period, Dublin have collected 23. The Dubs were odds-on favourites before this afternoon's match. So, a foregone conclusion? Well, some people said the very same last week about Galway against Sligo. With the story of what actually happened today in Croke Park, here's Kevin McStay, and first, Darren Maloney.
Well, there you go, Collymore. Well, there you go, Collymore receives the Delaney Cup. Dublin win 3 in a row.
To do it 3 in a row was a huge achievement for the players, and I think, you know, today and in the other games when they were put up against it, they really showed how hungry they were to do the 3 in a row. So we're absolutely delighted to have done it.
We're very, very disappointed. It's a very disappointed dressing room at the moment. All the players are down. This is their 4th Leinster final, and they've lost 3 of them, and it's 3 in a row now. So they're very, very disappointed. But we'll try and lift it. I think we have 2 weeks to a qualifier, and you know, it's a question of whether we want to go further.
We've been the shake-up for the last couple of years. You have to win your early matches to qualify for that. We've done that now, quarter-final again, and we look forward to getting the bodies rested. Some club championship matches have to take place this week, and then heads down and get 2 weeks preparation in for the next round.
Tommy, Dublin get their 3rd Leinster title in a row, and I would suggest expected and deserved.
Well, I think expected certainly, but deserved most certainly. And I think Dublin were very good value for their win today. And I think the big positive for Dublin out of today is that the 2 young guys, Mark Vaughan and young Bernard Brogan, scored 2 6 or 7 between the 2 of them. They're new guys in from the team of last year. Ross McConnell, who was maybe a bit edgy in the first 3 or 4 minutes, but settled into the game very well. And I think Dublin collectively will be very happy that they held Laois to 9 points for nearly 60 minutes of the game. Defensively, the defence looks like it's performing an awful lot better this year than last year. And I think Dublin management made a fantastic move today after about maybe 18-20 minutes. Laois were playing an extra man back, Dublin were playing an extra man back. They pushed Brian Cullen up on top of Brian McCormack, and from then on, Laois lost their way. And Brian Cullen had a massive influence in the game after that.
Anthony, both Joe and Colm seem to have taken their happy pills at half-time today. They thought this was a great game of football. What did you think of it as a contest, as a game?
Well, as a game and a contest, I suppose it was over when Dublin scored their 3rd goal. I think it was fairly decent up to that. Laois seemed to be up for it pre-match. They come out of the dressing rooms, opened up, got the first 4 points, got a lead up on Dublin. Looked as if it was going to be very competitive throughout, but Dublin's 2 goals in the first half within the space of 2 minutes really put paid to any chance that Laois had, and when the third goal went in, it was over. And I think at Laois panicked a wee bit in the last 20 minutes or so, because they continually went to try to score goals. If they had to tap things over, they could have brought it a lot closer.
And you were very impressed by the physique and the physicality this Dublin team bring to the game. In a way, it was men against boys at lots of stages today.
Yes, there were times, and I think it's where we have sat here before and criticised the game and the way it's going in terms of players lying down and trying to call and freeze. There's a breath of fresh air, the physicality in the game, and you've Brian Cullen coming out and just stopping Pádraig Clancy in his tracks, and a great catch there, and then again Cullen coming in with a massive hit. And these are all legitimate tackles. And the thing about Dublin is they're not only giving them out, they can also take them. Here's Tom Kelly coming out. Conal Keaney comes in to challenge him, gets an awful wallop. Paul Casey timing a shoulder to perfection. And I think it's certainly a trait that's come through this year, and it hasn't happened overnight. That's 3 years of intensive weight training in the gym to build up their upper bodies to take those sort of hits. And credit to them.
And Tommy, the next item is not a regular slot when involving the Dubs. That's positive attacking play from Dublin. You were impressed by some of their attacking play today.
Well, I think the Dublin forwards have been very close to having a really good day, and today they had a really good day in the office. And like many things the Dublin forwards did today, but like their whole ability to seek out the scores, they weren't panicking with the ball, and like this was a lovely ball into Conal Keaney, and Bernard Brogan takes it on the run. Right, young lad took his chance into the hill and a great score. This is another great diagonal ball in. Alan Brogan, who had Joe Higgins in awful trouble today. Back to Bernard, left foot, great point. 1-1 in the space of 5 minutes. Kieran Whelan, who, much maligned by Dublin people at times, fantastic game today. And, simple ball in, Conal Keaney, big strong fella inside now. And Alan Brogan, what he didn't do against Meath, slipped it away.
Tell us this, they had 75% of the possession today, Dublin. That was the statistics, yet they only won by 6 points. So if they were that good as a forward line, how come they didn't win by more?
Well, I question how you evaluate possession, Pat. Is it the clear midfield possession or is it the middle third? I would suggest the middle third was a lot closer than 70%. And I just think that Dublin as a team will always need a lot of ball to put up the big scores. They scored 3, 13 or 14, Pat.
Right, with a little negative in one of those attacking plays. Question mark over, well, Mark Vaughan's goal, but in particular Brian Cullen's run prior to the goal. Did he take the required number of steps, Anthony?
I don't think there's any question mark about it, Pat. It was a clear case of over-carrying, and I suppose in real time it's difficult to see, and Tommy was at the game and didn't see anything wrong with it. The referee didn't see anything wrong with it. Great run by Brian Cullen at pace, but quite clearly overheld, and Brendan Cooley came in with a good shoulder. But those wee things sometimes go for you and sometimes go. You see it here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, quite clearly.
But a great finish by Mark Vaughan, in fairness to him.
But it was important because it was the first goal that they got. If they hadn't got that one, they probably wouldn't have got the second. I don't think ultimately Dublin probably would have went on to win the game, but they went against Laois today.
Tommy, Laois seemed to panic at an early stage in the second half, and in particular in attack, they seemed to take the wrong options on too many occasions.
They did, Pat. I thought they started going for goals way too early, and that was basically really their problem. They scored 1-3 in the first 6 or 8 minutes, and they had Dublin defence in all sorts of trouble. Once Dublin started containing Laois, though, Laois started to run at Dublin. Dublin managed to be sitting down and maybe asking how are the Laois guys getting to within 14 yards before they're pulling the trigger. But these should have all been just simple points. The game was only 6 points at this stage. You're shooting from outside 14 yards. Great strike. But very rarely you beat Stephen Cluxton from that distance. And this was a real chance. He should have taken the man on better. This is the real goal chance he should have gone in and taken. It was a good save, but he should have turned it back inside like the Goose did last week and hit it on the strong side.
Now, lads, a lot of texts and emails about an instance, particularly towards the end of the game. Nick from Loughrea said, Dublin, your purest football speaks for itself, which is why the verbals are unnecessary. Danny Young Dub says, as a Young Dub supporter, I don't usually write into these programmes, preferring to leave that to others, but the action of Mark Vaughan after he scored the goal in the first half was absolutely appalling. John, Dublin Club Football, I'm embarrassed tonight to be a Dublin supporter. The actions of some of the Dublin players towards the end of the game were disgraceful. And you've had a look at some of those instances.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth in what's been said there. There's a certain thing when you're playing football, when you lose, everyone says you should be a good loser, but it's equally as important as when you win. You've got to win with a wee bit of honour and a wee bit of grace. And there's probably provocation in a lot of this, but you see this sort of behaviour here, and there's no place for this on a football pitch at all. And You know Alan Brogan, he's not the sort of character to get involved in any of this. Himself and Bonner, and they start, maybe a wee bit of showboating to the crowd at the end of the game, and I'm not quite sure if they're pointing up to Brawley or Rourke up there, but there's no real call for this in football, and even if there was provocation and all of that, and I'm sure there was an element of it, you've got to be big enough to stand up and take it, and you let your football speak for itself.
Yeah, yes, Pat, and you certainly be disappointed with that, but like in the end of the day, verbals have come into the GA over the last 4 or 5 years, and they're in it full stop. They're in every serious inter-county match. The verbals are there.
You must admit, though, Tommy, that we seem to get this always, in particular when Dublin are playing.
I would disagree fundamentally with you, Pat.
We had it with Kerry.
Yeah, well, you have a bad memory. Go back to Kerry Armagh last year, Kieran Downey. He only gave verbals back to the goalie because Paul Hartley was giving him verbals. Verbals are never one-sided. They're started by one team, and teams do zone in on what I perceive weakness of a team, and they'll keep shouting at them there. I personally wouldn't agree with it, but it is going on.
But we could do without it.
Well, we could all do without it, but I don't think it ruins a good Dublin performance by any means.
Right, lads, that brings us to man of the match time. Tommy, contenders?
Oh, there's a lot of very few contenders on the Laois side. I suppose Colin Parkinson had scored 3 points in play, Tom Kelly, Brendan Quigley, but Dublin had many top players, and they had Paul Griffin, David Henry in the defence, they had Kieran Whelan, Alan Brogan, Vaughan, and I suppose, Conal Keeney.
I would imagine. So it's from the Dublin side. You picked man of the match. You picked man of the match, Anthony.
Yeah, Kieran Whelan was the outstanding performer there today. As Tommy said, he's much maligned by Dublin fans and by GA people all over the country. For me, he's been a sensational player over 10 or 12 years, and people are only starting to appreciate him now. But today he was outstanding. The way he goes up, soaring into the sky, winning primary possession. And he's able to kick his own points. He kicked 2 wonderful points today.
This is on Laois Street.
Good midfield.
Rory Clancy and Brendan
Quigley. But Whelan can do it all, and it's a fitting tribute. 3 Leinster titles for him, and hopefully he'll go on now and win an All Ireland.
They'll win no All Ireland unless Whelan is on form, because he is the catalyst.
Okay, well done indeed to Kieran Whelan. And after the game, he spoke with our reporter Joanne Cantwell.
So Kieran Whelan is our RT Bank of Ireland Sunday Game man of the match. Congratulations, Kieran. As well as the trophy, he'll also get €1,000 to go towards the Players Fund. Kieran, how big was today to get the 3 in a row?
Yeah, it was a big thing, It's always nice to win 3 provincial titles in a row. They're still all very special, no matter when they come. We got there today. We probably were a bit sloppy last 20 minutes. We missed a lot of chances, and we could have probably won by more. But the important thing was winning, and it's a step in the right direction now. And a new competition starts now from quarter-final in, and hopefully we'll give it a good go.
A step. That's the second time I've heard that today. Brian Cullen called today's victory just a stepping stone. Is that how Dublin are looking at this?
Yeah, well, 2 separate competitions. I think the real stuff begins now from quarter-final in, and we were very disappointed semi-final last year, and we want to go one step further hopefully this year.
Well deserved, Kieran. Now, while we're on man of the match, we had a competition for you this afternoon. We asked you to name the award winner from today's Leinster final to coincide with the choice of our experts. And today's winner was Tom Savage from Dunleary, County Dublin. Tom gets a grand prize overnight accommodation for 2 people in a top Dublin hotel and 2 match tickets for the All-Ireland football quarter-final featuring Dublin to be played in a few weeks' time. So well done, Tom. Now we've a short break to take, but do stay with us. Next up, it's the collision in Clonus between the Red Hand County and McEnany's mighty men from Monaghan. In their own backyard. There for us, Martin Carney and first Marty Morrissey.
The breaking ball again. This time it's picked up by Philip Joe. 13. Tom Daly, chairman of the Ulster Council and native of Ballyshannon, hands over the Anglo-Cell Cup to the Tyrone captain, Brian Dooher. Tyrone are Ulster champions for the 11th time in their history. A great day for Tyrone.
The good thing about it was we could always just keep that bit ahead, and players like Sean Kavanagh, etc. stepped up. When we needed scores, they got them. So it was one of those games where I feel somewhat disappointed we didn't close it out with a bit less stress, but again, very happy to win such a game.
We always felt if it was 3 or 4 points in at half-time that we'd definitely be in with a shout at the end. There was 4 points in at half-time. Possibly the start of the second half, where they notched on 2 points, was critical time in the game for us.
Tyrone have high expectations in recent times. I suppose a bit of that's based on 03 and 05. Winning an Ulster title is good and people enjoy it, but they see it as a stepping stone to something better. And that's where we're at now. That's the Ulster Championship over. The All-Ireland series begins in earnest.
Anthony, Conor O'Rourke said today it's not a real typical Ulster final, a lot of open play. What's going on? Are you going soft? You can't keep these lads happy at all.
No, but we've stopped trying, you know. But today was a good game. It was a great contest, I thought, for most part. Tyrone won it because they put a purple patch together at the start of the first half and another one at the start of the second half. And really, in those two periods, they blew Monaghan away. And if you look at it from Monaghan's point of view, they were in at half-time, 4 points down, having kept all the Tyrone key men quiet. Dooher, Sean Kavanagh, Kevin Hughes, Mulgrew were all out of the game. They wiped the floor with them at midfield and they were still 4 points down. So you wonder from Monaghan's point of view what more they had to do to win the game. It was really towards the end when they started putting high balls into Vinnie Coy that they caused trouble for Tyrone. But they couldn't get that goal to tie up the game. But Tyrone really deserved to win.
Tommy, we saw Tyrone struggling against Fermanagh. We saw them doing a real demolition job, being brilliant against Donegal. So what did we get from Tyrone today?
Well, I think what you got from Tyrone today, you got a performance that was sufficient to win. I think what you got from Tyrone was equally a team that's certainly coming. Again, they're key players. You know, big thing when you saw Stephen O'Neill getting back on the pitch today. I thought they won within themselves, albeit I thought Monaghan put up a great performance. Monaghan, you know, through the kitchen sink at Tyrone. I don't think Monaghan can come off the pitch and say we could have put more in, we could have done more. I think they gave it everything, and I think.
But you think there was another gear in Tyrone?
I think there is, Pat. I think there. I said here about 2 months ago that Tyrone without Dooher, Kavanagh, and O'Neill having a chance to win the All-Ireland. But if those three guys are fit on their team, they're just such a vital cog to the whole team. Like Dooher didn't have a great game today. Sean Kavanagh was in and out. But every time they came into the game, you could see the quality that they bring to the team. And I just think Tyrone have certainly laid down the marker. They'll be in the shake-up.
Anthony, you believe that this game was decided in the opening few minutes of the game and the opening few minutes of the second half?
Yeah, it was quite clear. It was disappointing, I suppose, from Monaghan's point of view, because against Derry, they were the team that came out at the start and put on the pressure. They were very, very aggressive in the tackle. But today that wasn't evident in their play, and Tyrone seized on that and they got off to a flyer and they got 2 early frees. And then, you know, typical Tyrone, moving the ball at pace. Jared Kavanagh here, turning and off balance, still kicks a great ball into Colin McCullough. Turns around straight over the bar. Wonderful score.
It's a credit to Monaghan that they didn't go down after this kind of a
yeah,
start,
but
you know?
like you had Tyrone, you just see this. Philip Jordan ran about 70 yards there, and this was at the start of the second half where it was literally the Sean Kavanagh show where he sort of ruled the game by himself. He seemed to be able to just come in at will, catch the ball, saunter up the pitch and kick it over the bar. So, you know, the game was won by Tyrone in those two crucial
Would you worry though
periods.
that for 50 minutes of this game they only got 5 points?
I mightn't worry, but I'm sure that Mickey Hart would worry. The other thing he'll worry about is that his starting forward line only scored 2 points from play. He had a goal and a couple of points from his defence, and he had 4 points from Sean Kavanagh. But ultimately, it's a team game, and as long as you keep winning, you don't mind. But you know,
like Tyrone moved their players all over the pitch. You have people giving out with the Dublin forward line interchanging. I mean, Tyrone just play a 15-man game. It's up and down. Brian Dooher can be corner back. Enda McGrew can be back, wing back. Philip Jordan is up and gets the goal. That's the way they play. They play this 15-man game.
You're going to highlight another problem that we've highlighted already before this year, and that's when the high ball goes into the Tyrone full back line, their lack of physique, lack of height is a problem.
I think it's a problem in an awful lot of teams, Pat, in Gaelic football. I think everybody has struggled to fill the full-back position with a man of stature, and you know, I think Monaghan management
and I suppose cornerbacks nowadays are small little tight.
They are tight, tigerish little fellas, and not in your day, Pat, where they were slow and you could run by them. But you know, where you take Monaghan management, put Vincent Gorey up full forward, master switch for the second half, and he caused all sorts of trouble to Tyrone. And like, his composure for a man who was playing full back in the first half to find Freeman that time is a lesson to many a footballer. And you know,
I'm not sure it was that much a masterstroke, Tommy, because I think he was put up there because he had been booked and he had been tackled. He was on his last legs.
Sometimes the masterstrokes are the best ones like that, Anthony. You know,
well, by accident and design.
Absolutely.
Come here. Last year, Ulster provided no team in the semi-final. Could that be possible this year?
Well, it could be possible, Pat, but there's still a few teams in there in the hunt, and I think Tyrone, you're now looking at the big three to be Tyrone, Kerry and Dublin, and
I think Tyrone
will
definitely make an All-Ireland semi-final. I think there's no question at all about it, and I think Tyrone as a team, once they get into Croke Park, I think Croke Park, ironically, is a better pitch for Tyrone than Clones is.
Do you believe that since Canavan has gone there, that they lack a plan B when they're in trouble, that there isn't a leader there to lift again?
He was an awesome footballer, Pat, there's no question, and Mulligan is still a very young player, and I suppose they're looking to him to step up to the plate another level, and he looks fitter this time of the year than he did this time last year, and if they do get Stephen O'Neill back, he was equally a very big player for them. 2 years ago, Pat, he had a phenomenal year.
By the way, Tommy, you might have got past those slow defenders once years ago, but you didn't go past them the second time, I'll tell you that. That's man of the match time. Contenders, Tommy?
Well, I think Vincent Corey, Tomas Freeman, for Monaghan, and I think there was Sean Kavanagh, you had Conor Gordy, you had, I suppose, Doer wasn't in the shake-up at all this time, but Tyrone had many players, like Philip Jordan had a very good game of wing back. There had many players who were at a level, but there was very few of them jumped out at you.
So who did jump out at you, Anthony? Who did he choose as man of the match?
The one man that stood out was Conor Gormley, and you're talking there about leadership and Tyrone lacking leaders, but he is now the leader in their defence. He is the senior player in that defence. He marshalled it magnificently today. When they were under pressure at times, he's come in there and he's winning ball, which he's no right to win, and here it's between himself. He's marking Tomas Freeman, who was the danger man. Even when Freeman got the better of him, he's able to get a hand in and win the ball back. At times, when it was played in what you thought was a ball for Damien Freeman, he's out in front winning it. He doesn't give up the game. He's chasing an hard 30 yards and winning possession. And under the high ball, he was able to deal with the high ball. What Tyrone needed today was two Conor Gormleys in there to deal with that. But magnificent performance by him today.
And it's not the fancy stuff. He does the simple stuff. I remember 2 years ago in the All-Ireland final when they were in big trouble going down the right wing. He moved over, he cut out two threats, and all of a sudden he stopped Kerry going down that side, and it made a huge difference.
So well done indeed to Conor Gormley. After the match he spoke with our reporter Marty Morrissey.
Well, when it comes to provincial football final time, the RTE Bank of Ireland Man of the Match Award is quite a prestigious award. So it's my pleasure to introduce Conor Gormley, the Tyrone centre-back, and he's going to be given his award by Eugene Kearney, the senior manager with Bank of Ireland. Well done, Conor.
Thanks very much. Good on. Cheers.
Well, Conor, congratulations. Another Ulster title for Tyrone, but it was hard-earned, wasn't it?
Oh, it definitely was. We expected nothing less coming here to play Monaghan. Monaghan's on up, going well, and just glad to get across that finishing line for the first time in a couple of years, and just glad to see her lift the cup at the end of it.
They say a start is half the battle, but your start today really stood to you, didn't it?
I suppose it makes a bit of a change. We got off to a great start. Philly Jordan got a goal, and I suppose that stood us maybe near the end when Monaghan are coming strong, and as I say, we're just glad to lift the trophy.
Congratulations, Conor. Now again on Man of the Match. We had a competition for you this afternoon. We asked you to name the award winner from today's Ulster final to coincide with the choice of our experts. And today's competition winner was Mary Riley from County Cavan. Mary lands a nice prize, overnight accommodation for two people in a top Dublin hotel and 2 match tickets for the All-Ireland football quarter-final featuring Tyrone to be played in a couple of weeks' time. So well done, Mary. Listen, lads, we had a bit of controversy in the minor game today where Tyrone got a disputed point in the first half. Some said it was wide. They won by a point, and now it seems that Derry are going to object. Derry Chairman Seamus McCloy confirmed after the game that an objection will be lodged with the Ulster Council. We're duty-bound to make a protest, and I think there should be a replay. We're very clear at the moment that it was a wide ball and we were beaten by a point. I think that would be Tyrone's opinion as well. No one wants to win a game by a wide ball, and it was a totally wide ball. You've had a look at it, lads. Here it is. A point supposedly scored by Cormac Atkinson.
Yeah, one of those ones that you can actually clear up with the TV footage, which I suppose the match officials don't have the benefit of. But you see from the replay, the ball was clearly wide, and one of those situations when...
Look at it clearly?
Yeah, clearly just see it here just as it goes the other side of the post.
So what should happen, lads?
Well, what happens really is a matter for the authorities, but part of this is if you're a player when you're beaten, you almost accept that you're beaten. No matter what happens on the day, you leave it behind. I think there's an issue that Derry lost a minor semi-final a few years ago against Cork in controversial circumstances. Derry also lost in Ulster final in '97 when Cavan kicked the ball about 2 foot wide and it was given.
A couple of years ago, lads, Laois kicked one wide and agreed to replay with Cavan.
I think, Pat, let's call a spade a spade. It happened in the first 20 minutes of the game. If we're trying to encourage everybody to stand up and be counted. This is not a replay situation. It's very straightforward. They'd loads of time to score, loads of extra points. I really do believe that, Pat.
There's something seriously wrong, but when a man is standing at a post and can't adjudicate
fine, that's another issue, Anthony.
But
like,
over the bar, there's something seriously wrong, Tommy.
You know, it happened if it happened with 3 minutes to go and it was the deciding score, it's a different
Incidentally,
situation.
Anthony, to pour cold water on Derry's proposed objection. Rule 151 N207 says an objection cannot be submitted on the grounds that a referee had incorrectly allowed or failed to allow a score. Full stop.
Well, that's the end of the matter then.
Okay, time for us to take a short break. Do stay with us. We'll be back in a moment with football qualifier action. There's a few counties who are now very much in the last chance saloon. Balooly.
From Mullingar on Saturday night came a new definition for superiority in the 2007 championship. Surely any side that can miss a penalty, numerous scoring chances, have 2 men sent off and still win easily is going to be one to watch in the closing stages of the competition. More than 5,000 Donegal fans travelled to the Midlands to see if Brian McIver's side could make it to the last 12. Wingback Damien Healy was fit to play for the Lake County despite an injury against Longford last week. But Donegal lost Michael Hegarty before the throw-in with a hamstring strain. The game began sensationally with a penalty awarded to the visitors inside 15 seconds when super sub Kieran Bonner was pushed to the ground. But not for the first time this year, Gary Connaughton saved Westmeath with a dive to his right from the spot kick. The main reason for Donegal's victory in this game was Kevin Cassidy. The Gweedore man was outstanding in midfield and helped set up Rory Kavanagh for this point after 5 minutes. But Westmeath's Desi Dolan levelled the scoring at 2 points each 2 minutes later with a classy score from the wing in the sunshine at Cusack Park. Donegal went ahead again in the 15th minute when Kevin McBenamin's shot was again saved by Connaughton, only for Michael Murphy to tap over a point. And in truth, it was total domination for the visitors from there to half-time. Niall McCready wandered upfield to make it 7 points to 4 after 20 minutes. But they should have scored more. Kieran Bonner made it 9-5. And even though Michael Ennis replied with a point, Donegal led by 9 points to 6 at half-time. Tomás O'Flaherty's side returned to the field with a new midfield pairing and new fight. Dennis Glennon scoring quickly. There was also one good goal-scoring opportunity, but Gary Dolan couldn't find the power. And then Kevin Cassidy began to restore superiority for Donegal. The score that killed the game for good came in the 20th minute of the second half. Westmeath gave away possession badly, and Rory Kavanagh set up Brendan Devaney for the sort of finish he never fails to produce. This goal leaving his side 111 to 7 points clear. Rory Kavanagh increased the lead with a neat point 3 minutes later. And even though Gary Connaughton tried his best to keep the goals out, the die was cast. The last 10 minutes of the game saw 2 red cards for repetitive fouling. Kieran Bonner and Niall McCready of Donegal both sent off, either side of a Gary Dolan penalty miss for Westmeath. There was a consolation goal for Martin Flanagan before the end, but Donegal ran out the easiest of winners on a final scoreline of 1 goal and 13 points to 1 goal and 8.
You're back in business, you're serious contenders again.
Well, you're now down to the last 12, and you know that's been a great test of Donegal's character. The only thing I suppose you ever hope for in a backdoor game is to get a home game. So we've had to go to Carrick and Shannon and to Mullingar here and get results, and that was a great test for us. And thankfully they've come through it with flying colours.
Meath are by no means the finished product, but a performance based on defensive cohesion, an admirable work ethic, strong leadership from key players and a potent full forward line was enough to see off Northern opposition for the second week in a row. Shane O'Rourke, like his team, is a work in progress, but in taking scores and acting as a foil for the hard-working Stephen Bray and the skillful Brian Farrell, the trio are the basis for Meath's scoring potential. The game was riddled with handling mistakes and was of poor quality at times, but Brian Farrell's accuracy from frees always allowed Meath to keep their nose in front. Farrell hit 4 first-half points in an impressive display, while Fermanagh, playing against a strong breeze and driving rain, were over-reliant on Kieran O'Reilly, who hit 3 of their 4 first-half scores, the other coming from midfielder Mark Murphy. A Pather-Byrne effort saw the Royals 7-3 up at the break. The gap was stretched further soon after, thanks to scores from Farrell, Byrne and the man who appears head and shoulders over his colleagues at present, team captain Anthony Moyles. Fermanagh then dominated an 18-minute period, holding Meath scoreless and reducing the gap to 2 points as a result of points from O'Reilly, Shane McDermott and Tom Brewster. But the game and Fermanagh's season arguably turned when Mark Little's defence-splitting run ended with his effort coming back off the post. It took another Brian Farrell score, his 6th in all, to settle the Meath nerves somewhat. Try as they might, and they did to their eternal credit, Fermanagh's only consolation was a Tom Brewster free with time almost up. So it wasn't pretty, but the Royals know at this stage of the qualifiers, a win is a win is a win.
Somebody asked me earlier, what was it characterised me winning there tonight, and I think we matched them for their work ethic, and I probably surpassed it at times.
You've had an emotional couple of minutes with the boys inside. Is that the end of the Charlie Mulgrew association with Fermanagh?
Yeah, that's like trying to board myself. This was the last year, and it's things have their own life cycle, and it has come to an end, and it's important now that somebody else goes in there and brings new ideas and generates fresh enthusiasm and takes that bunch of players on to another level.
Declan McBinnett's reporting there. OK, on to this weekend's other 2 qualifiers, starting in Newbridge with Kildare against Louth. Reporting, John Kinney.
A decent crowd on hand at Newbridge on Saturday night to see Kildare face Louth, a night that threatened heavy rain throughout in a not-so-glorious summer. Kildare were unchanged in the side that beat Roscommon, while Eamon McEnady made 1 late change, dropping Darren Clark and starting Ronan Carroll as corner forward. Kildare started in the blaze and they pegged Louth back in their half, but they kicked 5 early wides before they opened the scoring with Pádraig O'Neill's point. But Louth found their feet and traded scores with Kildare. This Mark Stanfield point levelled it up at 3 points apiece. Louth with the better side after that and began to pull away before the break. Colm Judge's fine point put 5 between the sides. By half-time, the gap remained at 5. This Brian White free meant that Louth led by double scores at the break, 10 points to 5. The heavens opened at half-time and Louth continued to press. Enda Murphy, the Kildare keeper, pulled off a fine save to deny Shane Lennon. Try as they might, Kildare couldn't close the gap. Despite this John Doyle score, Louth remained 5 points clear. Indeed, the wee county put on a great second half display of shooting, and Shane Lennon's point put the gap out to 7. The margin was out to 8 entering the final minutes, but Kildare then produced a rally. Substitute Terry Rossiter pointed. Before Kildare were awarded a penalty, which was converted by John Doyle. Doyle then added another point and the margin was suddenly down to 3, and with 5 minutes of injury time the home side started to believe. However, that belief was snuffed out when Paddy Keenan slammed home a terrific goal to ensure Louth's passage through to round 3. Referee Tomas Quigley blew the final whistle not long after to record a famous victory for Louth. Kildare out of this year's championship. Louth march on a scoreline at Newbridge of 116 to 110.
They've all been tough games. We had 3 games at Wicklow, 1 tough game at Wexford. The last game at Limerick was a real tough game down in Limerick too, so today was even tougher again at home to Kildare, so yeah, it's just great to get a result.
I don't know what the right count was, but it was very contrary to our performance last Saturday in Roscommon, where we're very economical with the possession. We kicked a lot of scoreable chances. In credit to them, they were tight on us, but we kicked an amount of easy ones as well.
What about your own position then, John? I mean, you've got time to think about what your future is going to be with Kildare football.
Well, I haven't had time to think yet because it's immediately after the match, but it's probably not for discussion now, and it would be for other people to judge realistically.
We really showed the football we're capable of.
I suppose we've been criticised a lot for our performances in the Ulster Championship, and rightly so. We seem to be, we can't put two back-to-back performances in the Ulster Championship, but this back door really seems to suit us. We've been to the All-Ireland semi-final in 01 and 04 off the back of the back door system, and the momentum gained from playing games week in, week out seems to really suit us, and the team's really starting to gel there, as you've seen in the second half.
For long periods in the game, we certainly took the game to Derry. As I said, it's difficult on your away ground, and we had great Mayo support there today, and we got the goal in the first half, and I felt that Barry Moran was doing very well inside, and possibly if we could have got more ball in, but no complaints at the end of the day. Derry were the superior team over the 70 minutes, and we've no complaints about that. We had good periods. It's just that we need to have longer periods, and for some of the younger lads coming in, today was a great learning curve, and they will be that bit more mature when we go into next year's championship.
Come here, lads, I'm confused. You both watched yesterday's game. You said it was awful, Anthony said it was great. Which was it?
Well, if you're a Derry man and you're watching as a home supporter, it was great. But if you were watching it as I watched it here yesterday, it was just Mayo were very poor, and Mayo struggled to get to the pace of the game. They got a goal after 15 minutes for the goalkeeper's mistake, and it was really like a Winter League game where the away team travelling never gets going, and just they never really got into gear, and they looked a shell-shocked team.
Briefly, Anthony, you took over the entire programme praising Derry last week. Deserved victory. They're en route for All-Ireland glory.
Well, I wouldn't go as far as saying that, but they deserved to win last night, and they were quite impressive.
They were good.
You have to be borne in mind the conditions there were terrible, very slippy. But
big talking point. Defeated last year's All-Ireland finalists defeated. Is this the end of the road for this present Mayo team?
Yeah, you're not going to give me the chance to
No, I'm not. I think we've enough on Derry. We'll have plenty of time to talk on Derry. So
I said 2 months ago, Pat, I don't think you can ask these lads. These have been wonderful players for Mayo, but they've gone to the well 2 or 3 times in big days, and it just hasn't happened for them. And I don't believe, as you push on the years, that you can keep going to the well. I really don't. I think John O'Mahony blooded a lot of new players there, Barry Morton, Pierce Hanley, and I think that would be the future for Mayo.
Well, obviously you've picked out a good Mayo move, so obviously you're heading to Mayo next week on your holidays time to keep in the good move. You've been clutching at straws now to find a good move. So anyway, carry us through this Mayo good move, Tommy.
And I am going to the West, Pat. Yes. Look, I'm saying the Mayo future for Mayo is John O'Mahony's always had a certain style of football, and we saw Galway play this style an awful lot when he's manager of Galway, where they let the ball go an awful lot with their foot, and these are all very good diagonal balls.
Yeah, but Tom, will he have to start with a new team?
Yes, he has, Pat. Yes, he has. Yes, he has. And he started the process here yesterday. I think there's a lot of players in this team that won't be there again, and there's a lot of players he started yesterday.
Is it difficult to be a full-time TD and to be a full-time inter-county manager?
I certainly wouldn't like to do it, Pat.
You think he's going to have difficulty?
Well, it depends. I suppose it would have been more difficult if his party had been in power and that he had to be there. They're not in power, so maybe he'd be able to skip the odd Thursday night and come home early.
Where now for Mayo, Anthony?
Well, I think it's John O'Mahony took that job on. He said it was a 3 or 4 year plan. He wasn't expecting to turn things around in 1 year, and it's sad too because
it might take 5 years.
Well, we don't know, but
they would have 21 All-Ireland. I think there's a lot of good footballers in Mayo. Manny will go over another type of footballer, and I think you'll see Mayo very competitive next year, and I think you'll see them really challenging the following year.
Okay, that's a big talking point for this evening was the draw. Let's take a look at the draw made this evening for round 3 in the football qualifiers, and it resulted as follows: Monaghan playing Donegal, Laois versus Derry, Galway against Meath, and Cork versus Louth. Lads, what do you make of it? Let's take a top one. Monaghan against Donegal. Tommy?
Yeah, I think Donegal have rehabilitated themselves. They had their shocking performance in the championship. They went out badly, but I think they've regrouped.
Tommy, you tipped Donegal to win the All-Ireland in the first night.
And I have, Pat.
So will they still win the All-Ireland?
Sorry, you do understand they're still in the All-Ireland. You do understand
you believe they will win the All-Ireland?
I believe Donegal will be thereabouts.
They'll win the All-Ireland?
Pat, they'll be thereabouts.
Anthony?
I think Donegal have done extremely well to come back. They're back in the running. They're no more than that. They were sitting ducks against Leitrim. They came out of that, and it was a very, very impressive performance by them to go into Mullingar and to win.
Laois against Derry. Joe seemingly was very happy when he heard they drew Laois, that they're a soft straw or a short straw.
I don't know. I think Laois are a decent side, and to me, Laois have a big game in them. It didn't happen for them today. They have 2 weeks to pick it up.
I think Laois is a bad draw for Derry. I think Derry won't like the type of football Laois play, and I think Joe maybe has got that one a bit wrong now.
Galway against Meath. If Galway play like they did against Leitrim and against Sligo.
Galway look like another team, Pat, that looks like they're going to the well with players that are very close, who've given great service to their county.
And the well is dry.
And I think the well is dry. I just think
it should be a tight one, because
would you feel the same?
Meath struggled to beat Fermanagh, which you would have expected Meath to have won that at home soil quite comfortably. So you know what, that's the makings of a good contest.
Yeah, I think that'll go to the wire, that one.
And briefly, 50 years ago, in 1957, the All-Ireland football final was between Cork and Louth, and they play in the qualifiers this time. Louth won 50 years ago.
Yeah, okay.
Can they win this time?
I think Cork are really a good outside bet, Pat, and I have money on them, Pat, as well. I like to back a few. And I think Cork were very good against Kerry. I think Cork left the Kerry match not too down. And I think Cork would be, I wouldn't like to be a provincial finalist drawn them.
And see, Louth have had 5 matches.
Well, Louth keep surprising us. We keep thinking that they're going to get beaten. We thought they would get beaten by Limerick. We certainly thought they'd get beaten by Kildare. Cork's probably going to be a step too far for them. But credit them, they've shown tremendous heart over the course of this year.
The progressive.
So briefly, lads, give us the 4 winners. Quickly, Tommy.
What 4 games?
Those 4 winners from those 4 games, which are all being played at neutral venues, by the way.
I would go for Donegal. I'd go over Cork. I'd go over Laois, and I'd go over Meath.
Anthony, briefly.
I think I'll go Donegal, Derry, Meath and Cork.
Lovely, okay. Many thanks this evening to Anthony and Tommy for their expertise and analysis. Hurling is up next for us, so do join us after the break for qualifier action from 4 matches, with the All-Ireland quarter-finals now just a short week away. The winners of Wexford and Tipperary. Well,
next Sunday at St. Patrick, you're going to have Kilkenny and Galway and Tipperary and Wexford in Croke Park. Kilkenny will be hot favourites, there's no doubt about that, and if they play up the form, they should win. Galway will be travelling more in hope than in confidence, and again, the other game as well, Tipperary will be hot favourites now against Wexford. Now, it's a bit insulting to Wexford, Pat, that all the teams were hoping that they draw Wexford, and if Wexford have any bit of blood,
you can understand why.
You can, but the point is, hurling is a funny game. 7 or 8 points lead in hurling or play a bad one, it doesn't go that way. If there's anything in Wexford, they're going to give it next Sunday, like, because they'd have to redeem themselves for the year they're after having.
I haven't seen anything in Wexford to suggest otherwise. Have you, Tomas?
No, the only performance I suppose Wexford gave this year, Pat, was in the league match against Galway below, and certainly they performed very well that day, but up to now they've been very disappointing.
Yeah, but Tomas, the last day they played 4 backs in the forwards last day. That won't happen the next day.
But sir, the reality is, right, I mean, they were beaten by so much by Kilkenny, right? They are underdogs going into it, right? And you're right for what you're saying. If there is something in Wexford, let's see it against Tipperary. I mean, if they pick their team, pick their strengths, go back to picking their backs in the right positions.
Most people say, lads, that's Kilkenny through to the final down here.
Oh, you better not say that to Ger. Look, now, get out of that for a second. Hold on a minute. Galway are the one team on song. They have the pace and they have the skill to take on Kilkenny. Now, maybe they have the physical strength. That's what they're going to lose out in. And Kilkenny are hot favourites. But, like,
I just think the problem with Galway at the moment is, right, there isn't consistency in the team, right? I mean, they are together for the last 8 months or so. I mean, you've had changes to their team.
You think there's a kick in them?
Yes, certainly there is a kick in them, right? But what Galway are, they're a hurling team, you know. I mean, they can't be reliant on the physical strength that's maybe this 8 months of training. They are hurling, they move the ball quickly, and that's what they're going to have to do against Kilkenny.
And briefly, lads, in the top half, they had Limerick playing Clare. Remember last year?
Yeah, well, like last year, Clare hammered Limerick. Yeah. Like I'd say this year that Limerick will be kind of confident that they'll figure they should get them back. You know, you'd have to go. It's going to be very, very tight, their neighbours, but you'd fancy maybe Limerick to get through. Like, and then the other one, that's going to be a dinger because, like, Waterford, if they're going to win the All-Ireland, they deserve it this time because they're going it the hard way. And, like, definitely, Cork, even though they were poor last night, after we have the pool game, you'll find that Niall McCarthy will be back on, Tim McCarthy will be back on, Tom Keane. They'll be a different outfit, and it's a toss of a coin who's going to win that one.
Okay, briefly, Les, I asked the football boys, name the 4 semi-finalists for the hurling.
Well, I think it'll be Kilkenny and Tip, it'll be Limerick, and the other one you could have a draw against, very, very tight. You know, like,
someone will have to win eventually.
Yeah, just very tight. Maybe Cork will get revenge on Waterford this time.
Oh.
Yeah, I go along with Sir there. Certainly Tip and Kilkenny. The Limerick-Clare one, Tony Griffin coming back into the equation in Clare will give them a big boost as well. But you'd expect with the matches that Limerick have got at this stage and the hunger that they have and desire that they will probably pip that one. The Waterford-Cork match, I think the Waterford-Cork match very depends on if Niall McCarthy is back for Cork. He's a vital cog at centre forward. They've struggled in that position in the last couple of games. And if he's not playing, it's going to be very, very difficult for them.
So you're saying Waterford?
Well, I'm saying basically if Niall McCarthy is playing, I think...
Say it out to us, so they won't shoot you in Cork.
No, I'm not going to be shot in Cork or anything like that. I think Cork will actually win it.
Lovely, very good. On now to the other 2 fixtures played yesterday in the hurling qualifiers. Starting in Portlaoise with the home side entertaining Clare. There for us, Joanne Cantwell.